At least 21 people, including 2 children, have been killed in a Russian airstrike on a residential area in Ukraine's southern region of Odesa. 2 missiles struck a multi-storey apartment block and a recreation centre in the small town of Sukivka. The attack happened in the early hours of the morning. Dozens of civilians were also injured. From the scene, here's our correspondent John Ray.
Russia struck while they slept. And for all the tireless efforts of rescue workers, some never woke. As day dawned, the recovery of the first of many bodies today. Russia claims it does not target civilians. Here is the evidence that at the very least, those who ordered this attack cannot care for its consequences. Ivan is 17 years old, but this morning he had to carry the bodies of neighbours from the building.
I saw a woman. She was very, very badly hurt. Then I carried 2, 3, 4 corpses out. The emergency services asked me if I knew any of them. It was a nightmare. I used to think the war was just fireworks, but now I see it. It's horrible.
This is not the work of precision missiles. The destruction is indiscriminate. A 9-storey apartment block, home to perhaps dozens of families, reduced to rubble and dust. Another missile hit a holiday village on the coast. It was being used as a rehabilitation centre for children. A 12-year-old was among those killed in their beds. In all, at least 40 people, young and old, including a pregnant woman, have been injured. Elena and her son George moved here to escape the war and the people who wage it. What do you think of the Russians who did this?
Я их ненавижу. I hate him. I hate him.
The nearby port city of Odesa has come under routine bombardment, but nothing to cause such a grievous loss of life. Over the past week, Russia has stepped up its attacks on targets far from the main scene of fighting in the east. And each time, the ghastly result has been the same: the shredding of innocent lives. This seaside town is a long way from where the fighting is most intense. But the grim truth, understood by all in Ukraine, is that nowhere and no one is truly safe. John Ray, ITV News, Sahivka.
Next tonight, Sir Richard Branson has told ITV News some airlines and airports went too far in cutting staff during the pandemic, but the Virgin founder said it's remarkable so many airlines survived. Sir Richard experienced the long queues at Heathrow for himself this week as he returned from Ukraine. He'd been invited there to see the devastation caused by Russia. And he told our correspondent Geraint Vincent that Ukraine urgently needs more weapons.
3 days ago, this was a kindergarten. This is where the rocket hit.
A billionaire in a war zone. Richard Branson travelled to Ukraine to see for himself the extent of this country's suffering at the invitation of its president, who asked him to echo his pleas to the West for more weaponry.
Once territory is taken, for them to get that territory back means taking a risk of killing their own people, because their own people are in the territory that's been taken, and they can't do what Russia did, and that was just level cities in order to retake them. It's much more difficult for them to retake land. So, now is the time, in their opinion, to have the weaponry to stop them taking any more land.
Branson, of course, is the flamboyant entrepreneur who made some of his fortune in industries which are now blighted by high prices, job losses and industrial action. A situation made worse and in some ways caused, he says, by Russian aggression.
Ukrainians are dying in this war, but the people in the civilized world are fighting a war. And as a result of fighting a war, inflation has gone up, fuel prices have gone up. We're all going to have to suffer from it. I mean, Virgin Atlantic, we've got massive fuel bills because we're in a war. But we have to live with that in order to get this war won.
And on his journey back from Ukraine, the founder of the Virgin Group had some direct experience of the travel chaos that seemed set to define the British summer.
I flew through Heathrow Airport yesterday and waited for 1.5 hours in line. It was worth it once I got on a Virgin plane, people were incredibly patient, but it was horrible that we had to put them through it.
And what's been the problem is the airline industry just got it wrong in shedding too many members of staff during the pandemic and leaving itself in a position where it can't fulfill its promises to its customers.
I think some airlines did go too far, and some airports did go too far. But in fairness to those airlines, it was it was a cataclysmic 2.5 years. I mean, it's remarkable that most airlines actually survived through that time.
Sir Richard left Kiev having talked about how business might one day return to Ukraine, but with a warning from its president that there might not be much of a country left to do business in. Geraint Vincent, ITV News.